Hi, welcome to the Drama Free Living podcast. Lisa, we're kind of continuing the conversation on how to enjoy life and people, even though like that you have to be around. Maybe not even like them or, right? But you can actually enjoy your life, even though you're around a lot of people that maybe you don't like.
These humans that you don't really care for.
Yeah. And gosh, Lisa, humans are messy. Right, we're messy people. We're messy by nature, right? We have these different lenses that we see the world in, mm-hmm. right? We have these core talents, and we have these abilities and these skills, and we've got to run them through the filter of how we think, how we feel, right? The stories that we tell ourselves, and the challenge is we got these filters, right? And we judge people according to how we filter them, or we judge people according to how they are filtered, and when we need to just step back and kind of see the gold in people. And I think that is kind of what's missing, mm-hmm. right? We have this worldview and this lens, and I think it's really distorting like how we see people.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We've all got different upbringings. We come from different cultures.
Right.
We have different personality traits. We have different life experiences.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we bring to this world is our vast differences and being able to embrace our vast differences. And you got me a sweatshirt, and I don't remember the company that it comes from, but it's an athleisure sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And it says, "Nobody is you, and that is your superpower." And that's really what
you should have wore that today. That would have been awesome. Yes, you could have. Yeah, that would be
and
great.
that's really the topic of our podcast today is nobody is you, and that is your superpower.
Right. And how many times, watch this, do we make judgments against people, and we kind of do it based on our own giftedness? Right. So I make a judgment against somebody else because I'm good at something, when stepping back and going, hey, what is the uniqueness in them? And then because I'm making that judgment, I no longer enjoy being around them.
Right. But then in a perfect world, or in a healthy world, or in a functional world, I have this perception, I have this idea, this concept, and it's heralded, it's celebrated, it's looked forward to, because my judgment, my concept is different than yours. But in this particular situation, in this project with this client, it's the one that makes the most sense. It's the one that gets the job done. It's the one that gets people where they need to go when they need to do it.
Yeah.
Because you could fly any airline, any way, but just how exactly do you want to fly?
Yeah. Well,
do you want a jump seat, or do you want
if I can sit first class, or do you want to sit in the back of the plane,
or do you want these beautiful pods that are just all-inclusive experiences, as opposed to standing in line and being a number? You can fly across the world any way you want.
Yeah,
it's which way do you choose, and it's a personal thing.
Yeah. And so I think really being very sensitive, I think, to the lens and how I see the world, and really getting very good at not making judgments.
Yeah.
Right? Because typically when I make judgments, I'm really cutting off some wisdom. There's some wisdom that you have, but if I make a judgment against you, I cut myself off from that wisdom.
Right.
And how many times do we do that? And I think there's wisdom inside of everybody. It's the idea that there's gold inside of everybody. And, when a miner is mining for gold, Lisa, he doesn't come in and like he's not focused on dirt. But how many times do we focus on dirt? We focus on the dirt in people's lives instead of stepping back and going, hey, where is the gold? Hey, this is the gold. And how do I bring that gold out? Because, a miner, when he goes into mine, he's going to remove a ton of dirt. But he's never focused on dirt. He's like, there's gold somewhere. I got to find it. Right. And so it's like you always find what you focus on. And here's the thing. If you're focused on people's problems, like you're going to find them. Right. You will find them. They'll just pop up. They'll be everywhere if that's your focus. So and it's your job to determine your focus. That's your job. And many times, we make these judgments and we cut ourselves. Gosh, Lisa, we cut ourselves off from the people that could really help us. It's like I'm cutting myself off from somebody who has my answer, but because of my judgments, I'm lacking. And then I feel like I'm the victim. And I'm the one who put me there because of my judgments.
Right. And your judgments could be how they look. Your judgments could be what their race is. Your judgments could be
where they came from,
where they came from,
what language they speak,
their political viewpoints. Your judgments could be their age. Your judgments could be their accent. Your judgments could be their life experience, which is very different than yours.
Right.
Or it could come down to your judgments could be their personality style and how they communicate and how maybe they just use too many details and too many words and too much time, or they're too direct and too brash and to make it happen.
Yeah.
And we make judgments based on all of these individualities of different people. And really, that's what my superpower is. My superpower is that nobody's me.
Yeah.
Nobody has gone through this very intricate, complicated, complex twisting of my life DNA, the aspects and the genomes of my DNA of my life that have brought me to where I am gives me a unique perspective, and it gives me a unique superpower. And, there are certain very specific areas where I'm like, I am the one with the best response, the best answer, what we need to do. But there's a lot of times that it's really you or someone else on our team or someone else that's not even on our team because your lens, your worldview, your life, your upbringing, your experiences just allow you to be maybe more of an expert in this area.
Yeah. So I was kind of thinking about, Lisa, like, because I think I fall into judging a lot of times, right? And so I'm just sitting here thinking, like, how do I know it? But I think I discovered it. Think about this. Every time that I am irritated, annoyed, or bothered about a situation, a person, a circumstance, guess what I'm entering into? I'm entering into the judgment zone.
Yeah.
And so I have to be very careful when I'm bothered, when I'm irritated, and they're signals. And I was just thinking about, one of the roundtable participants. We just had a roundtable last week where we brought in a lot of great senior leaders, a great roundtable. But I made the statement that there's wisdom inside of your emotions. And he had trouble with this concept, right? Because it's like, well, it's all about the task and getting stuff done. And what are you talking about? We shouldn't be emotional. But the reason there's wisdom is because it tells you a story.
Yeah.
And if you just stuff it and don't really look at it and examine it, you miss the value, right? And a lot of times when people say, well, I'm just not emotional. Well, think about this. You've just made a judgment against emotions. And because you made that judgment, you can no longer get the value from them. It's fascinating, right? So it's whatever I make a judgment against or about, I cut myself off from the wisdom of that. And I think that is sort of it's the problem we have with our lens we see the world, right? Because through my lens, I'm always making judgments.
Right.
And so I think getting really good at just like understanding like, hey, as you're going about your day and really knowing you, I'm kind of irritated, bothered, or annoyed. Hey, that kind of irritated, bothered, or annoyed me. Okay, what judgment am I making? And what can I learn from this situation? And that way, because part of the problem is that people have these irritations, bothers, annoyances, and then we just complain about them, right? We just kind of live with them, and we just sit with them, and we just bake with them. And then it just grows and grows and grows instead of stepping back and going, hey, there's actually a reason. And it probably is some kind of lens that I'm seeing the world in. Hey, I'm irritated because you do that behavior. And it's really what it touches is it touches my control issues, right? Because I'm really trying to control you because I don't really like that. Because actually when you do that, I get kind of afraid. And I don't want to be afraid, right? So I don't want you to do that. When it's like, hey, what does that say about me? And I have a certain lens that I see you in, right? And so I think really owning our lens, first of all.
Yeah. And along with that, we use the word judgment, and I think the word judgment can sometimes just have a meaning that's a little hard to identify with.
Yeah.
And I think another way is the stories that we're telling ourselves.
Yeah, it's better.
No, I like judgment because it is a judgment. We are telling ourselves a story. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we make a decision, a perception, a judgment about something based on the story we tell ourselves. Right. So therefore, then we begin to feel or act out of this judgment, which really just came from the story we told ourselves. And I know for me, so I was recently in a meeting, and there was someone, and they were toward the front of the meeting, and there's just something about this person that really bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I happen to have a little insider information and I know a little bit about their past and some things that they've done that are less than stellar. They're not the best of humanness.
Yeah.
But they're an okay person, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are a little bit more gregarious. They're more
Outspoken.
outgoing. They kind of like the attention. They're fairly successful in their industry, and I have to be really careful when I see them just being them. They are being them, just kind of
being gregarious.
Their gregarious self. Their outspoken self, and their liking to interact self. And I have to be careful that I'm not making a judgment about them. Oh, well, they're just trying to get attention. And they're not even that great of a person anyways, because I know what they did. And they say that they're not doing those things anymore, but I don't know if I really believe them. I mean, because how can you just stop doing those things after doing them for so long?
Right.
And should we really be like, I don't know. I really don't want to interact with that person. And I don't think that they're that great of a person. And so I've got all of these stories that I'm telling myself, creating a judgment, which is therefore creating how I think and feel.
Yeah.
And then it's going to create this vibe that they get from me and that other people get from me. And I have to zip my mouth shut so I don't say something out of this whole process of my story, my judgment, my thinking, my emotion, and my feeling toward this person.
Yeah, and it's almost like we miss the value of that, right?
Right, because you know what? People like them. They're outgoing. They have something to give. They've got wisdom. They've got experience.
Yeah. Well,
they're
Lisa,
fun.
Well, Lisa, and you said something really interesting. I think here's kind of the nuance about this, right? It's the story I chose to tell myself. Right. And one thing that we have learned as you and I working together, right? Because sometimes we have these interactions that are maybe less than functional, maybe a little dysfunctional, right? At times. And it typically comes out, but there's this idea is that, hey, I did that. And the story I chose to tell myself about this was blank. And it really helps you own, right? Because your stories are your choice.
Yeah.
Right? They're based on how you grew up, maybe past hurt, maybe personality difference, maybe the culture, the family of origin that you had. And we bring all of these, and we bring these things to work. Listen, you have a bunch of family origin stuff going on, right? People don't talk about it, but it is in play. And, and we're not telling you to go be everybody's therapist or life coach. That's not, but you just have to understand that people are seeing things, through their own lens. I see things through my lens, and it's my responsibility to choose the right story, right? Because the story I choose really determines the lens that I see things in. I mean, a great example, Lisa, is conflict. We do a lot of conflict resolution and talk about how do we talk about disagreements, right? And we have all these different families of origin, right? Some people grew up in homes where it's man, we just battled and we just fought and we yelled and screamed. So when I come to work, it's I'm bringing that idea. And some people—
This is how we communicate.
It's how we communicate.
This is how we get stuff done.
Yeah. And other people, you might have a family of origin where, you hear about the elephant in the room. It's well, in mine, it's we had an elephant, 2 giraffes, a hippo, 6 rhinoceroses, and 2 cats.
And nobody talked about any of them.
No, it was we had a zoo going on, right? It's how do we navigate 500 landmines, right? And we just discovered, gosh, if we can just talk about the weather and sports, we'll be okay. The weather and sports, and we'll be okay. But if we talk about anything else, watch out. Right. And so it really kind of almost accepting people's lens sometimes.
Right.
Is super helpful and just letting them be.
Yeah.
Right. I love this idea that, I'm really working on that. Love and tolerance is my code. Right. Love and tolerance is being able to accept people for who they are and then get the value from who they are. Because maybe I don't even like you, but that's okay. I can still get the value from who you are. I don't have to like everybody. That is not a requirement for being at work, but I can still get the value, but I have to stop making judgments because if I'm making judgments, I'm not getting the value.
I can still enjoy existing around you, even if I don't like you, even if I wouldn't choose you as my best friend or even as my group of friends I go, on vacation with.
Yeah. And it's almost it's these stories we tell ourselves in the gap, right? It's almost we and the reality is people see or hear something and they immediately tell themselves a story. And I think as leaders, one of our big jobs is to just help shape people's stories, right? And a lot of times, like a story is simply a meaning that you have put to behavior, a meaning that you have put to a circumstance or an event. And so it's this idea of I want to tell people, hey, this is what this means. Lisa, a great example is doing a keynote a couple of years ago at a nursing conference, and and we're not for divorce, right? We're not pro-divorce, but things happen in people's lives. And I will never forget, I had one nurse come up to me. I was back signing books at the back table, and she was like, "Oh, my life is over. I just went through a divorce, and I get this going," and just started complaining.
It was just really sad.
Yeah, I just,
it was really difficult.
Okay, my heart reached out to her. I said, "Hey, just hold on a minute. Let me finish signing books, and let me talk to you. Give me 5 minutes." And
yeah, let's have a conversation.
Let's have a conversation, right? And so I'm still signing books. 2 minutes later, Lisa, another nurse came up to me. She says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. My divorce is just final. I'm going back to school. My life is just beginning. This is awesome." And I thought, wow, a divorce. One person, her life is over. The other person, her life is just beginning. Who's right? They both were right, because it's the lens that they chose to see that event in.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are always putting meanings.
Yeah.
You can't help it. Part of being a human is being a meaning maker. Mm-hmm. Humans are amazing meaning makers. We'll make meaning out of everything. We're great at it. And so really choosing the meaning and choosing the right meaning, right? Say we have a failure.
A functional meaning.
A functional meaning. Yeah. And so say we have a failure. Well, maybe a functional meaning could be, hey, what did we learn from this? And we just lost $50,000 trying to do this project. Okay. How do we extract $50,000 of learning from this event right here? Right? Hey, what if we look at it as an investment, not a failure? All we're doing is just changing the meaning.
Yeah.
Right. And if we look at it as a failure and it means a failure, well, we're going to be sad. We're going to be mad. We're going to be angry. We're going to be disappointed. We're going to lose our confidence. But if we look at it as a learning event, right, then we're like, hey, it's actually going to build some confidence. We know we're not going to do this again. Right. It's all of a sudden it becomes this learning event. But it's your choice. Your choice is the lens. Your choice is the story that you really decide to create for yourself.
Yeah. And we a lot of times go into things and we call them an experiment.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
It takes the fear, or it takes the uncertainty or the possibility of failure out of the equation when we're going in and we're like, hey, this may work and this may not work, but it's an experiment.
Well, even we've been doing this a lot, like with goal setting and doing quarterly plans with teams, and even like in the roundtable, is almost looking at like your goals as just bets. They're your best bet, right? It's like knowing what I know now. It's like I got my best knowing right now, all of my experience. So this is all the best knowing. And so for the next quarter, the next year, this is my best bet based on on my greatest knowing. Well, a year from now, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to learn some new things. I'm going to have some better knowing. And and life is really just a series of bets. So, and really, a bet can just be an experiment. And what I love about framing it as an experiment is they don't always work.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing we know from an experiment. We're going to learn something. We don't know if this is going to work, but man, we're going to learn something. And as long as I keep learning, I keep growing. And as long as I keep growing, I keep succeeding.
Yeah.
And so, it's almost like looking at, was it a setback or was it a setup? This is one thing we kind of working with some clients on, Lisa, is that they were just telling me about setbacks. And I says, well, what if we looked at it as a setup? Mm-hmm. How would we respond? Hey, if this was really a setup, what else would this mean? Same event. Is it a setback or a setup? You get to decide. It's the lens that you see events from, and we do the same thing with people.
So give me an example of a setback versus a setup, like the client that you were talking about.
Yeah. So you know what? We lost a couple salespeople, and so because we lost a couple salespeople, it's like we didn't hit this revenue number for the quarter. It's a real setback that we lost these salespeople. But what if this was a setup, right? What did this teach us about our culture? What did this teach us about our management? What did this teach us about our comp? Oh, you know what we realized? You know what, this is a setup because we totally changed our comp plans. Mm-hmm. Our comp plans really didn't incentivize the right behaviors, really kind of dug into it. And well, of course, these two people left, right? The comp plan wasn't incentivized right. So we're like, oh, hey, this is really a setup because guess what we did? We changed our comp plan. Mm-hmm. But we would have never known that if we didn't have the experiment that happened this past quarter.
Right.
And so, but if it's a setback, then guess what? I don't learn anything from it.
you just lost a couple salespeople and you're kind of in a deficit mode.
Yeah. And so maybe let's kind of talk about maybe what are some tools that I think some real practical tools that we can kind of give people. I think, a lot of times just this simple idea of just like pausing before you react.
Yeah.
All right. Sometimes a great tool is like, hey, what does this mean? Or what else could this mean? Right. When you hear complaints and you hear, people's bothers and annoyances, it's like, hey, what else could this mean?
Yeah.
Is maybe a tool. Do you have one, Lisa, that you're thinking about?
I think being generous in your perspective is a really good tool. It's assuming the good or assuming the positive rather than just allowing yourself to go straight to whatever this negative story is. And it goes back to people that tend to either be glass half full or glass half empty.
Yeah.
It's really the best way to live your life is just glass half.
Yeah.
Just because it's just half.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if we
it's always going to be half.
Sometimes if we live half full, we just maybe bet on things that we would be they're not great bets.
Yeah.
And if we're glass half empty, it causes us to be risk averse. But if we're looking at it from, okay, we are going to assume they are innocent until they're proven guilty. Or we're going to assume the good until we have proof that, okay, this is actually bad.
Yeah. At least a great acronym that we use a lot in training is AGW. Assume goodwill.
Yeah.
Right? Assume goodwill. So we come into every situation, and listen, here's the reality, right? Do people sometimes not do what they say they're going to do, right? Do sometimes they miss the mark, right? They don't behave functional. It's a little dysfunctional behavior, but hey, you know what? I assume goodwill.
Yeah.
I take that stance, not because of you, but because of me.
Right.
Right? A lot of times, well, they don't deserve it. You know what? I don't do it for them. I do it for me. Oh, you know what? You might not deserve it. I get that. But you know what? It's about I'm doing this for me because at the end of the day, I've got to look at the mirror at Dennis and I've got to be happy with Dennis, right? And I've got to step back and really go, okay, you know what? I'm just going to assume goodwill because you know what? That's the kind of person I am.
Because I want to enjoy existing around the humans that I have to be around. And so when we assume goodwill, it allows us to more easily enjoy the humans that we are around, that we kind of sometimes don't have a choice, that we didn't choose.
Yeah. So if that's your outcome, if you want to enjoy being around the humans that you really have to be around, then the key is assume goodwill, right? Just continue to monitor your lens of how you see the world and just realize that your lens is your choice. Your story is your choice. And if your story is not serving you, great news is you can change it. You can change the story.
Yeah.
You have the power to change the story, right? You can't always affect the circumstances around you, but man, you can change the story to that circumstance.
Yeah.
You can change the meaning. And the meaning is everything because meaning is a great motivator. I think one of the number one motivators, when we think about motivating people and motivating our team, it is all based on meaning. Oh, this happened. Oh my gosh, we just failed. Oh, we're no good. We're horrible, right? But hey, what else could this mean? All of a sudden, it changes my motivation, right? Was it a setup or was it a setback? Well, if it's a setup, my motivation totally changes because in the real sort of value of this is you're always more creative when you're in this positive headspace.
Yeah.
Right. When you have a functional story that's working well for you, you're always more creative. But when I get dysfunctional and I've got a story that's really not working for me, I tend to not be very creative. And we want to continue to be creative so that we solve bigger and better problems. And, then it kind of works on I solve bigger and better problems, then I'm going to get bigger and better rewards. Right. And your rewards are really based. So watch this. Your rewards, Lisa, are really based on the stories you're telling yourself. Mm-hmm. Right. I have this story that's always glass half empty. Right. Or what's the
glass half empty, glass half full.
Right. Things are bad, right? So I have this story that I tell myself and just how it plays itself out in my results, and it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And so it's you get to choose your story. If you choose your story, you choose your rewards. So if you want different rewards, take a look at your story. What's the story that you're telling yourself?
And, along with that, another tool to help us clean up our lens is balancing healthy boundaries with a generous interpretation. So in you don't have to tolerate disrespect, real disrespect, but you also don't have to live as if every action or every slight is an attack.
Yeah.
So you don't have to tolerate real disrespect, but you also don't have to live as if every slight is an attack. And there's a difference there.
It's total lens, Lisa, because watch this. Like, if I see it as an attack, guess what? It's an attack, 100%. And then, of course, I'm defensive, right? How would I be anything else? If everything's an attack, I'm going to live defensively.
Right.
Of course. It totally makes sense. But what we have learned and what we teach a lot is that if I don't believe it's an attack, it isn't. If I don't believe you're attacking me, then it's not an attack. And then if I don't believe—
It's not an attack to me.
It's not an attack to me.
Now, they may have actually intended it to be an attack to me.
Could have.
But if I don't take it that way.
Right. And watch this. If it's not an attack, guess what? I don't have to defend. Right? So this whole idea of defensiveness, right? When I get defensive, what does it say about me? Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So where's my lens?
Let me just throw in here. We're talking, workplace interactions. We are not talking about true disrespect.
And we're not talking about trauma.
And we're not talking about when someone actually does something to bring you down, because there is a lot of that in the world.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of people, the difference between someone intentionally devaluing you and someone who is stressed or unaware or preoccupied or has their own life event going on, and they do something and it's a slight and we choose to take it as intentional disrespect and intentional devaluing. And those are two really, really different things. So what we're talking about here is not one human actually out to get another human and bring them down. We're talking about our assuming that they're devaluing me when I'm not even taking into account that they're a human and maybe their mother has dementia and ended up they had to take them to they had to call the ambulance to take her to the ER, and now she's in the hospital and getting ready to go into a rehab situation. True story. This is all true story of somebody we know.
Right.
And so if they say or do something, and are they devaluing me, or maybe are they just stressed, unaware, distracted, and preoccupied with what's going on in their life? And we just need to have a generous perspective toward them.
Well, Lisa, and I think because this happens a lot, like we're either doing training or we even say something on a podcast, maybe get some hate email and they go, yeah, but it's not true in this situation. Like what we're talking about 80, 90% of the time. Yes, there are these outliers. Like,
there are some horrible things going on in the world today, but we're just talking in our office situation, and there could be true disrespect going on.
Right.
And there could be true prejudice going on. And honestly, that does need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And it needs to be brought to the higher ups. But there's also a lot of me owning me.
Yeah.
And me owning what's going on with me, and just not assuming that because I woke up on the wrong side of the bed that you're trying to make my life miserable.
Yeah.
Let me just own my own life.
Right.
Because that truly is how we can enjoy existing around the humans that we have to be around.
Right. Because we typically, Lisa, like we judge people according to their actions, but we judge ourselves according to our intentions.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you come in and you're real snarky, and it's like, well, you're just a mean, ugly, hateful person. Right. But then the next day I come in kind of snarky. And it's like, well, they don't understand. It's like I was up all night with the kids and they were sick and I was up like 2 hours. So of course I'm a little snap. Right. It's like I judged you but I judged me according to my intentions. And we want to step back. Right. And just be very, very careful with some of these things.
Right.
Right. And so this has been great.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I think the key thing is it's possible to enjoy being around humans. Right? Even maybe that you don't like, people that you have to be around. It's possible to like enjoy that situation. Lisa, for you, takeaway for you?
I appreciate the concept that, I need to take a look at my lens every day and make sure, if I've got a pair of glasses on, make sure I got the smudges off, because if I have the smudges on, everything's going to be blurry. So let me just clean the lens of my glasses.
Yeah.
So when I look out, I have a clear picture and I'm not bothered by the smudge, which is making me feel like life is wrong.
Yeah, I think for me, I want to step back and really be more aware of my irritations, bothers, and annoyances, and realize when I step into that place where I start to feel that, maybe not step into it, but I just kind of pops up and I start to feel it, to go, okay, where am I judging, right? And how do I change that judgment? And I think that's going to change that feeling. It's going to sort of help me take control of it. So this has been great, and we'll see you next time on the Drawing for Your Living podcast.